Hi, this is Cameron back with my second video since returning to making videos earlier this week. It had been a couple of years since I last made videos. At that time, I was mostly making videos about my new finds for vinyl purchases, as well as some of the selections from my vinyl collection. I've actually pretty well slowed down in buying vinyl the last few years. I find that the prices are really high. I've got a big collection as is, about 6,500 records. Um, I let my two sons study in my music den, so I don't go up there very often on the third floor attic. And I actually spend a lot of time in my living room where I have a brand new CD system. So nowadays, I'm mostly buying CDs. I buy a few selections of full price CDs, rare albums, and then I go searching in the bargain bins at my local record stores as well as at the thrift stores. So I'm paying $1 to $2 for those albums, Canadian, which I find is a very attractive price in order to really get to know music of the 80s, 90s, 2000, and occasionally the 2010s. I've noticed that albums are available in the thrift stores pre 2010 or 12 because that's when people stopped buying CDs en masse and they started downloading. Well, they started downloading earlier, but they especially started streaming about 10 years ago or so. So the reason I like buying CDs for the period of time from the 80s to the 2000s is because that's when I largely stopped listening to new music. I guess the very last of the new music I stopped buying new was with the grunge era. That was the last period which really connected with me for the new sound. I don't really like rap. I do try it occasionally. I don't really like dance music. I've tried a few artists and can appreciate those two genres. I'm not really a punk rock fan from the late 70s and early 80s, although again I like the influence of punk into regular rock music. So I don't have, I mean, I have Nevermind the Bollocks and a few other of the classic punk albums, but I don't really seek out um, punk other than sort of pop punk or punk pop. I'm not sure. I think it's called pop punk is the genre. Um, like Green Day, some of the newer female fronted sort of pop punk bands like Man and the Marbles and some of the ones I've discovered. So today I'm gonna do my very first CD finds video. Uh, so I have hundreds, if not thousands, of CDs I've never shown my viewers. So I'm gonna little by little show them off. I buy, you know, 20 to 50, even occasionally 100 new CDs a month if I find them really cheap and good quality. My way of buying uh, used CDs is I pick out what I would like to buy. Then even before I look to see if I have a copy or before I become too attached to them, I take a look at condition. Anything with even the slightest nick, I put back. Then my second stage is once they've passed that condition test, I look to see if I have the album already. I have my iPhone loaded up with the Discogs app. That way, I know if I already have the album. Some albums I try to get a second or third copy. I spend a few weeks a year and will eventually spend my retirement years at our house in the Dominican Republic, where my wife is from and my first son was born. Um, so I'm setting up a second collection. And my wife has graciously given me my own little space where I can listen to music there without disturbing everybody else. So before I go on and on about my CD collecting, I want to show off 13 new CDs that I've bought in the last couple of weeks. So to start off, I have Captain Beyond Live in Texas, October 6, 1973. I'll pull out the booklet. Not too much in it. There's a little write-up, picture, and another big write-up, and finally the end of the write-up and the track listings. So a little bit of information, not tons, but better than a lot of reissue CDs. This case is actually not a reissue. It's the first issue of a historic concert from 1973. It came out in 2013. They're a hard rocking band from a mixture of Britain with Rod Evans from the first edition of Deep Purple, plus three members from Iron Butterfly and Johnny Winter's live band. I'm not sure if the musician played in his studio albums, but I know from the live band. I like this album a lot, except for the fact that it's a little bit low fidelity. Doesn't sound like it's off the story or off the soundboard, though maybe it is. But the sound is well, it's certainly better than any a bootleg. It's actually better quality than that, but it's not top-notch live recording. But any live recording from Captain Beyond is worth hearing. And here's the actual CD. Next up, I have Justin Currie, What Is Love For? This was sealed for $1. And then it opens up. Opens up on the inside, of course, as well. So I'm new to Justin Currie. He's the lead singer from the Scottish band Delamitri. I think I have one of their albums. It didn't make a big impression on me. But again, when I'm buying so many CDs, I have to confess that sometimes I don't give it the proper listen that it's due. So Justin Currie plays sort of a power pop sound. This album is from 2007, What Is Love For? Next up, an artist from Manitoba, my province in Canada. I'm based in Winnipeg, the capital city of the province of Manitoba. And it's Luc Doucet and the White Falcon, Blood's Too Rich. And there are liner notes, a booklet. If I can get it out without ripping the CD. And it sort of goes backwards. All the lyrics, a couple pictures. This album is from 2008, and it's indie pop or folk rock, sort of a mix. He later Luc Doucet joined up with an interesting Canadian folk rock band called White Horse. I was going to buy an album of White Horse at one of my local music stores, but I have been trying to cut back, and I put the brakes on myself from buying it that day. Next up is a band that is really well known, an Italian dark soundtrack, horror soundtrack writers, Goblin. And this is their hits, the rare tracks, their outtakes collection from 1975 to 89. Here is the cover, and then the inside opens up, and then a little write-up. So, of course, this has a track from Suspiria, but it also has from about 8 of their other or 10 of their other soundtracks like Profondo Rosso, Vampire, Key, Patrick, La Via della Droga, Zombie, Buio Omega, St. Helen, Contamination, Tenebrae, Nocturno, Phenomena, and La Chiesa. So a real selection. I had not heard most of these songs before. The only one I have previously is Suspiria. And I've actually seen the reunited version of Goblin twice live. The last time about 2 months ago at our local park theater, which fits about maybe 250 people, and I had a front row seat, so it was really amazing to see live. Watching the movie while the band played live beneath the screen, and then when the movie was over, they played a selection of pieces from their other songs from their other albums, especially from Profondo Rosso. And that album came out in 1995. Next up, I have Buddy Guy, The Blues Don't Lie. I was really surprised. This is from 2022, 2023. So to find a brand new album in a thrift store is a real shock. This kind of stuff just does not appear in my thrift stores. Only rarely, like this particular example. So lyrics and a nice picture of Buddy Guy. This album, as I said, came out in 2022. It's he's born in Louisiana. He plays Chicago blues, so sort of like a blues rock. I've seen him a couple times. He's come to my city, Winnipeg. He was supposed to come to our Winnipeg Folk Fest in 2022, but he had to cancel because of health reasons. So let's wish for the best in the healthy recovery for Buddy Guy. And then I have another Buddy Guy album on JSP Records called Breaking Out. And this album actually is a little deceptive with the cover title because about 2/3 of the album is made up of Buddy Guy with his brother Phil Guy playing, backing him up. And then the other third is Phil Guy, his brother, playing lead, and with Buddy Guy playing, backing him up. It's on JSP Records, which is a European album and a European label, and it came out in 2014. So next up is Buddy Guy, The Ultimate Collection, which came out in 2005. Again, Chicago Blues. Let's see if I can get out the booklet without damaging it. Here we go. So this is a thick booklet with lots of pictures, some stories of them. Nice picture of him here in this big thick booklet. Some more nice pictures and write-up. So those are some of the pictures and the write-up from the album. I saw Buddy Guy when he was really old, the last couple of years of his life. He wasn't playing too much. He was mostly telling stories, but he did play a few songs and was entertaining. Next up, a band I'd never heard of before called Raintime. The album's Flies and Lies. I'll pull out the booklet. Colorful inside with lots of photo collages and pictures. This album came out in 2007. They're an Italian band, progressive power metal. I like it for the most part when the singer singing with his normal voice. I don't like grunting vocals in my metal. I just find it very off-putting. So there's a bit of that, and I don't enjoy the grunting, that style of metal. So that album came out in 2007. Next up, Robert Randolph and the Family Band, Colorblind. They're a gospel blues band. This album actually is very blues rather than gospel oriented. Gotta play it loud. The album came out, they're from the US. The album came out in 2006, Colorblind. I saw them again at our folk fest maybe 15 years ago. They were just brand new at that time. And they were very impressive live with, again, a lot. I remember them being more gospel-y at that time rather than blues. But this album is clearly very blues-like. Next up, I have the very best of Cat Stevens. Big write-up on the inside. Lots of write-up, very little in the way of pictures, but there are little images, thumbnails of the albums where these songs come from. Unlike some of the other greatest hits collections of Cat Stevens, they do feature some of his songs from the 60s rather than concentrating only on the 70s. So it spans the whole career up to his period of Yusuf, I believe. So some of the much later albums. This compilation came out in 2000. Next, Sting, If on a Winter's Night. This has a booklet as well. This album came out in 2009. Pictures. Just a lot of the information on the different songs, and then a write-up. Final picture. So I wasn't so crazy about this. This is Sting going off and being very indulgent of his own tastes rather than thinking of his audience. That's fine. Maybe that keeps him interested in producing new music rather than police-oriented sound. I do like some of his solo albums, his early solo albums. This is really getting into a sound I'm not so crazy about. As I said, he's doing a bit of a mix between pop and classical, which seems to be his direction in later years. I haven't seen him live. Have not. Next up, Papa Wemba. Papa Wemba's from DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. He plays soukous music. This album is called Furidoles. Don't know what that means. 1994. Came out in France. The inside is just a listing of the songs and who the players are. He died about 10 years ago. I did see him at our folk fest, well, maybe even like 30 years ago, a long time ago. And I remember he was very electrifying. I have one of his other albums, so when I saw this for $1, I jumped on it. Next up, Stevie Wonder Song Review, a Greatest Hits collection. And this album came out in 1996, and of course it's Stevie Wonder's R&B. You see, it's a double CD. And this seems to span his career from maybe 1970 onwards. It doesn't cover his R&B music from the early mid 60s. None of his greatest hits that I have seem to cover that period. Some photos and write up. Where the songs came from. And again, I think the earliest doesn't say the years of these songs, but it's mostly mid to late period, not his early period. So it doesn't have his little Stevie Wonder music. And then finally, the X-Files, Songs in the Sea of X. And I'll pull out the liner notes. So this has the theme song twice, and then it has a number of songs by individual contributors to the music in the back of the X-Files show. So again, a nice poster. I didn't really watch X-Files when it came out. I was doing my graduate education, graduate studies, and I just didn't have time for TV. So I didn't watch it. It does look like a series that I would appeal to me. I'm a real Twilight Zone fan and sort of mystery and science fiction. So I'm going to have to look up some DVDs that collect their music. So that's it. As for and by the way, the X-File one is from 1996. So that's it for this CD Finds #1 collection. Please go back and take a look at my old vinyl collection of vinyl finds. There's over 100 videos uploaded. And also my reintroduction video, which I put out 5 days ago, and which featured comics. So I'm going to continue making CD videos as well as comic pickup videos. Vinyl, I'll put a couple together, but as I said, I only buy maybe 20 LPs a year, and that's it. I just find CDs are the biggest bargain going around, and I've really my vinyl purchasing money has gone into comics. So I'll talk about that in another video. Thanks so much. Please subscribe and have a good day. Bye-bye.